I feel like when you start driving towards your purpose, every day is preparation. It's never going to be the perfect moment to do what you're called to do. Like you could have everything in the world, but you still feel that sadness.
What motivates you to be excellent? Because you look at the food, you look at the environment, everything is just the people, the team. You said, living my purpose. And you told us about your backstory of starting this restaurant. You started a restaurant during COVID. How did you do it? What happened?
I'ma get it, you know I be on the way.
Okay, Christopher, welcome to the Fight Against Mediocrity podcast. I'm so excited to be here. I usually like to introduce people how I met them. We moved from Utah. One of the most exciting things for me was, all right, let's go try the barbecue.
Yeah.
So 4 o'clock on a Saturday or something, I'm like, oh, Prime closes at 5, let's run over. And little did I know, we probably shouldn't have gotten in because you usually sell out, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And, but a miracle, you still had a few pieces of brisket left. We come in and I was sold. It was so good. The best barbecue I've ever had. And I don't say that lightly. I try a lot of barbecue. And so we kept coming back. And a week or so ago, I came with my in-laws who were visiting and they loved it. And you came up and talked to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what motivates you to be excellent? Because you look at the food, you look at the environment, everything. It's just the people, the team. It's excellent. And you said something, and as soon as you said it, I was like, oh man, I have to know more about this. You said, living my purpose. Like the first thing is I live my purpose. And you told us about, your backstory of starting this restaurant and during COVID and all that. And that's actually where I wanted to start. Is you've won all the awards. I mean, you have all the plaques. You've been in probably every newspaper in North Carolina and a lot of the country. But tell us about jumping right into it. You started a restaurant during COVID. How did you do it? What happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, that wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
I just want to preface it there. I didn't say, okay, in 3 years there's going to be COVID. Let's prepare ourselves. It was, I feel like when you start driving towards your purpose, every day is preparation. And it's never going to be the perfect moment to do what you're called to do. It's never going to be the perfect environment and time and economical setting for opening a restaurant or pursuing your dream. But the preparation that I put in before made me ready to pivot at any point. There wasn't anything I wasn't ready for at that point. One of my mentors says, the old saying, don't drive the bus unless you have the right people on the bus. I had everyone on the bus. I knew exactly where we were going. I had the oil changed, the gas checked. Everything was ready. I've been practicing on the bus every single day and we're ready to drive it. It happened that the day we turned the key, gas on the pedal, it was May of 2020. And, we bought the property so long ago, it took 2 years and 2 days to build this building.
This was your first physical restaurant.
That is correct. Prior to that, we were traveling the country, teaching barbecue, more of like ambassadors of barbecue. I worked with Wounded Warrior Project, rehabilitated veterans of barbecue. We did cookbooks and TV shows and competitions. And actually, we were what you would call comfortable. And
you didn't need to do the restaurant.
I didn't need to do the restaurant. I didn't need to do it. If anything, I had more flexibility, more income.
Yeah, less stress.
I don't want to say it's less stress because when you live your purpose, it's joyful just to wake up knowing what you're going into.
Okay.
Going to bed so giddy knowing that you're doing everything you need to do it right. And I can go to bed knowing I'm prepared for tomorrow. You have to be more hyper-focused, cascading a vision at this point, just because I have, upwards of 36 people who depend on me. And their families sit on my shoulders. Their children sit on my shoulders. Their future sits on my shoulders. And that's a very serious thing. Where in 2020, all these little delays started happening when you build a restaurant from the ground up. This small town we live in has never seen anything of this magnitude. Live fires. I mean, the largest scalable building compared to us is a Texas Roadhouse, which was probably like 30% of our value of build,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a lot to take in. And as we grew closer to the launch date, I started to get really, really confident. When you start seeing your vision come up, you start getting really like, I'm awesome. This is going to happen. When you start seeing the walls that you've chosen, the layout I chose when I was younger, like everything come in front of your eyes, you start to want to sit on this throne
I
and
did it.
sit back and look at what I've created and sit back and look at your kingdom and all those things. And no matter how many great people I surround myself with, no matter how many motivational books I read, no matter how many great sermons I hear from pastors, I really, the enemy is so good at taking you 1 degree off course. And then you end up in these waters like, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
Like my life isn't supposed to be here. It was supposed to be this direction. But for some reason, I started to see these like little lies and I started to get in that place. And I recognize it so well now, and I talk about it so well now because it can happen. Where I thought it couldn't happen to me. You know, I have a good marriage. I have beautiful children I love. I tithe to church. I do all the right things and surround myself with great people, keep myself out of the enemy's gaze. And here I'm at in these waters where, wow, it happened to me. I'm sitting here thinking, look what I've created. And then all of a sudden this COVID thing hits and it doesn't matter what I've created, that I don't have that anymore. I don't have the building and the beautiful components of what makes Prime Barbecue great. I just had specifically at the core, the service. Because at this point, everything was eliminated. You know, everyone's doing to go. Everyone's doing the same to go boxes. We're scraping for boxes and forks and napkins and knives. Obviously, the food had to be good, but that's always temporary. You know, people really hated to just be in contact with other people. So we had to make it about, one, our employees. Secondly, kind of the intentionality of how we serve and love others. It really had to be the forefront because I came to the conclusion that if I just make great barbecue and put it into this bag and put it through this window, gloved up, masked up, you know, please don't touch me. Don't, you know, the whole deep connection's gone. And I need to reconnect with something deeper. And I would handwrite thank you letters and put them in the boxes, every single bag. I had to think beyond what I was trying to create, understanding that the building and the lights and the tile and all the beautiful things you see around you are merely ingredients. But the recipe is love and value and intentionality. That's the end output of what I wanted people to taste. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The barbecue is just an ingredient. It can't be who I am as, you know, my purpose. So anyway, COVID was tough. You know, all our employees quit. We hired all these employees all throughout the year, managers, leaders, shift people, and no one showed up. Day one, there was like 6 of us, and 3 of them I had to pull off of favors of people who actually retired from the hospitality industry. And I was just like, please come and help me. She's still with us today. And she worked in the school system, lunchrooms, and helped at churches and did things for 30, 40 years, had retired. And I was like, I need you. I have nobody. And we were sleeping in cots in the pit room. We were all doing multiple jobs. And we got weary during that time, but I never got like, we're going to fail. I was like, this is part of our story. It's part of our process. The people around me saw that. And that's how I spoke every single time. Oh yeah, we're dirt tired, but we're not failing. Oh, we're not hitting the same numbers we did last week on that day, but it's just part of the process, y'all. Like excellence. This is where excellence is made during these times. So then when all the things are right, you can push even farther. You know, excellence isn't doing everything perfect because that's impossible, but it's doing many things perfectly. every single aspect of what I did, I wanted it to be perfect, knowing that one part of that cog won't be, but that's okay. As long as I get 9 out of the 10 right, perfectly, flawlessly, that's excellence to me. That's that standard I try to meet. Employees now today, I try to push them to a new standard. And then when I get them to that standard of excellence, I'm like, look at what you did. And we'll just do it day by day, shift by shift. And they're like, wow, that was pretty awesome. I'm like, yeah. So now this is your new standard. Like, we only can go up now. You can't go down. It's not possible. You've already shown me, what you're capable of. So, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Just the way you speak of the confidence you had. And I'm guessing that confidence came a lot from God showing you that this was what you're supposed to do. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So my whole life I've cooked barbecue, and I wanted, I'm a competitive person. I played competitive soccer my whole life. I'm not one who, like, if I'm in it, I'm going to win it. And in competition barbecue, I did that for 14 years. I wanted to lift the trophy every single time. I didn't go there to get second place, fourth place. It'd be nice to get reserve. I'm there to win the whole thing every single time. I practiced that way. I studied that way. I believed in myself that way.
Did that come natural, that belief of I'm going to win?
I think it came because I was always, how I grew up, I was never like the best at everything. I grew up with a severe dyslexia. I grew up short, small. I'm a Puerto Rican. We don't get really big, and I grew up in Texas where everyone's like huge corn-fed people, I lived a life of always working harder. I knew that I am as capable as someone who's naturally smart or naturally talented, naturally big. I just had to put a lot more work than that person did to just get to their level. But to exceed them, I had to go through all the intangibles. And I did that middle school, high school, even college. Like, I really had to push myself to be great. And when I got to the barbecue competition realm, I realized that it's all like a matter of creating production lists, just really having that feeling of momentum and not letting it leave you. Because if you have like one bad drop or one meat category, it'll throw your whole motivation off. But it wasn't until every trophy I started to hold when my success started coming, because of my excellence in my discipline, I felt less and less valuable. And it was a very sinking feeling. That's when I really started to recognize who the enemy was in my life, because he would dangle these things in front of me. And I would be unstoppable to touch it. And I would get hold of my hand and realize that it's fake. It's temporary. It's just satisfying. It's not fulfilling. I ran a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, while I was doing barbecue. And that's when I started to like doubt my life choices. Is barbecue really my purpose? Like, I've started to create and capture these things I wanted to achieve, but it wasn't bringing me the validation, joy, or even monetary income that I was needing to maintain with my peers. Because, I'm a motivated person. I see someone that's really successful. I want to meet or exceed that. That's it. And I started to develop a relationship with the busser who worked for me. And I really enjoyed our time together. And he became a server as well. Is because he seemed fully fulfilled. Like, he had the world in his hand. But if you really speak to him, he's got nothing. He didn't even have really a car. And I found that desirable, and at the same time, it made me super angry. Because here I am with everything in my palm, and I still feel empty, and he's got nothing. And it's just like, just his vibe, his aura was what I wanted, when I thought in my head, this is what successful people feel like all the time. Like, untouchable, completely fulfilled. And I didn't have that. But the people I was trying to be that way with it's just monetary, oh, I'm, 30 under 30. I had all this, nice cars, nice home, nice house, nice wife. And the more I spoke to him and the more we started to develop a relationship, I started to ask questions. He never really said, "Hey, do you know who Jesus is?" He was never that kind of person. All he did was show me love, value, the things that people seek after. And the questions I was asking, he was asking me questions back to me, and they were making me internalize and think about, where does my fulfillment come from? And when I couldn't answer that truthfully, that's when I felt conviction and the weight of my sin. You see, people YOLO their whole lives thinking everything's so great, just because the enemy doesn't want you to feel the weight of your sin that you carry on you. Now, there's moments in your life, whether you're taking a shower or right before bed, that you have this like glimpse of it. Like you could have everything in the world, but you still feel that sadness and that longing. Longing is something that you hide behind your heart. You cannot share with anybody. The most powerful people in the world have longing. Only if I had this, or only if this didn't happen, could I be who I want to be. You can't have that because you don't have a coveted relationship, a transparent relationship where you can open your heart and share that. I never shared that with any girlfriend, my parents, my brothers. I kept that behind my heart. When Jesus has always been there, I didn't have to seek after him. I just had to realize he was there. I just had to realize the weight of my sin. And when it was crushing me at my most, that's when he came in.
What is one of your favorite experiences or moments helping someone have that realization?
There was an older gentleman who came in the restaurant, and tough guy, military guy. His son brought him in. Son loves barbecue, loves what we do. His dad's a widower. My dad lives I forgot where he's from, Ohio or something like that. He had his veteran hat on. Just tell he's just a tough northerner. And I met him. He's like, "I appreciate you giving out soldiers to kids. I appreciate what you do for the military." And I started, I know how to talk to veterans really well. And I'm
Did you
like,
come
man,
from a family of
I didn't.
veterans?
Nothing. I came to the realization, I started teaching veterans by happenstance, but I came to the realization that I did absolutely nothing to receive all the opportunities I have. And I didn't have to ask one veteran to do that for me. They did it because it's their duty. And I felt that I have a reciprocation of duty as a civilian business owner to honor and validate my veterans. Hiring, tithing, providing them discounts, all those things, they're not going to ask me for. It's my responsibility and duty. Like I didn't have to ask them to travel across seas, sacrifice their families, see horrific and go through horrific things so I could be a barbecue man. I didn't have to do that. It's a reciprocation of duty. When I talk to veterans, I pretty much put it in that standpoint. And he was like, "I appreciate that." And I was like, and then his son said, "My dad loves barbecue pits. Can we do a tour?" And that's my favorite thing to hear. Can we do a tour? Absolutely, we can do a tour. And I just liked him because he's old school. Like I like going to the fleets or to the, these clubs where these military guys hang out because they're all old school and hard and, men, not like today. They're not like that intense. Took him in the pit room, started going through the paces of evangelism. And I could really feel the Holy Spirit fill the room. It was really intense to me. Something I've never felt before. And when we got to the fire and I started talking about the fire, I've seen it so many times when people feel the weight of their sin. It's instantaneous. It's something you cannot shake. You cannot shake it. You cannot shift the subject matter in your head. When it's there, it's forever there. And he got it really intense in the pit room area. It was really hot. It was this past summer. And almost went down to his knee and just sat there, and the sun was grabbing him. And I was just like, let's just let him be for a second. And then I just saw this grown man sit there and just start sobbing and crying. And we're not even talking about Jesus yet, mind you. We're just talking about a fire. It's just that fire related something in, ignited something in him. So we both carried him in there, and I was like, we have to finish this tour. And his son was like, no, I think it's good. I was like, no, we have to finish this tour. So I show him the chef's table where the veterans sit. And he's never seen something like that before. So again, God's sitting there raking scales from his eyes. It's really intense. And then I turn him and do a call to the aisle. And it was beautiful to see him accept Christ, to come to the recognition of what just happened in his life after all these years. And then for him to turn to his son and say, we have to do this together. We have to stop ignoring this. This has to happen. And to see both of them come to know Christ at the same time was one of the wildest experiences I've ever seen. And I still know that just all I'm doing is just touching the cloak of Jesus when I see him in heaven. That feeling and that aura that entered the room, that Holy Spirit, that power that took over the room without me doing anything. I did nothing. I could just feel it taking over the room. He was carrying something for so long, and Christ was there that day. Like, he's like, today's the day. You will never, no matter how well you evangelize, it's only Jesus who comes in and does the work. You're just there to sow seeds.
That's true.
But when he enters the room, there's no denying it. Like when an angel comes into the Bible, it says, do not be afraid. It's the most frightening thing you could probably ever witness, is just the angel. And that's not even God himself. It's just, it was overwhelming and frightening at the same time when I felt that aura in the room, to see this really gruff man just start to crumble and break down, to see, or almost physically could not walk from the pit room into the main room. His son and I carrying him, and just seeing him stare at God and him come in. Acceptance was the most powerful thing I've ever witnessed in this building. Now, I've seen a lot of people take the tour, and I equip them to go to a good church. I follow up with them. Sometimes I disciple them. And that's all great to see. And people come back, I'm going to a church, I've accepted Christ, I'm being baptized next week. That's a lot. I've seen that a lot. But to see 1, 2, 3 happen, it was
all right then.
Well, that's the whole point of my existence. If the only reason why I had to go through all I had to go through to see that one man come to know Jesus, I have done my job well. I felt like that's my job. When you realize and see that, you really can't say, oh, I do something better. There's something better than this. Like my brisket. If I win #1 in all the world of brisket, if I'm the best restaurant that's ever existed in history, I can't say that it's better than that moment, seeing that guy come from death to life. So if I realize that now, then everything I'm working towards, that before where I was pushing myself or working harder, is for that main goal. And with that, it's just, it goes hand in hand over and over again.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to talk about is, how do you, in the business that you're in, all that you have going on, harmonize, or I know it's probably impossible to perfectly balance, but harmonize family and work?
Sure. To me, that's easy. Family will always be more important than my work. Christ is the most important thing to me. then right under Christ is my wife. She's number 2.
So last question is, what does the fight against mediocrity mean to you?
The fight against mediocrity. Man, I have so many people that come up to me that want to accomplish what I've done in barbecue. And there's no like combination of secret things other than everyone in all the businesses you can have in the United States, the number one business that fails is restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the number one restaurant industry that fails within restaurants?
I'm going to guess barbecue.
Barbecue.
One of the reasons I know that is because in Logan, Utah, where I'm from, I can count at least 3 that I know of that have tried and failed in the last
That's because
decade.
everyone thinks that they can do it, but few people can prove it. So everyone starts off as mediocre and you get to great by putting in your reps. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you put in your reps and you get to great, to get to excellence is like that extra workout after the game.
But every day.
Every day. Every moment of every day. Actually, every hour of every day. To make great brisket, I don't shove a bunch of wood in at one point of the day and then I regurgitate straight brisket. To make great brisket is actually the maintenance of a fire every 45 minutes, understanding where that meat is at and how that fire needs to be situated. And through that repetition of managing a proper fire comes out the end result of perfectly rendered beef that people are in awe over. And it's not because I'm really great at cooking brisket. It's because I made a lot of great small decisions that gave me this. That is the end result I want. This is the reps I got to put in every day. And then when that brisket's gobbled up and eaten, do I do nothing else? Do I call it a day? No, I start the fire again. I do it over and over and over. And then while I'm doing that, I'm doing other fires. I'm working on other things and I'm working out after win the Super Bowl. If I won the Super Bowl, if I win the James Beard, if I'm noted as the best barbecue restaurant on earth, there is no way in the world I'm going to rest. I'm going to keep pushing and going and going and finding people's souls and doing the best job that I can, because that's like when you see that death to life, when you see that success, when you have that momentum, when you've made that quote unquote first million, the next 10's easy because my discipline's set. So if you don't have that, if you feel like you're mediocre, you have to set that discipline. Not tomorrow, today, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. It has to be today. Even I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. But for me, tomorrow worries about itself. That's in Matthew. Because I have Christ. My eternity's set. So I've already won every James Beard you could win. I'm going to sit at Jesus' feet. So if I die, I win. Do you win? If you don't have tomorrow. If you achieve everything you want today but don't have tomorrow, then it's a waste. But if you have eternity, you gain everything. Everything. Not just tomorrow, but forever. That's how important that relationship with Christ is. So if you feel that you're mediocre, look at your relationship vertically, not horizontally. If you feel like you're on your back, you're looking in the right direction. Because that relationship will only bleed down and overflow into everything else you're trying to achieve in your business. That's a guarantee. I've seen that too many times to know that there's any other way to do that. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Christopher.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.